instrumental in the improvement in technology for the revolutionary changes that you can make. So anything that develops and then grows incrementally in terms of technology or any changes that is drastically disrupting, that is called innovation. So what are the steps? So basically, when we talk about innovation, everything starts from an idea, right? That's the ideation stage. And then that idea has to be chosen or selected, and then it has to be conceptualized. Then once we conceptualize, then there will be a prototyping. If it is a device, or if it is a drug, or any kit, in vitro diagnostic kit, or it could be a small playful car, any product. So it has to have a prototype. Then obviously, in order to scale the manufacturing, we need to have a business planning. And then once you make a mass level production, and obviously it can be launched to the market. So this is just a very naive step of thinking about innovation. These are the 5 key steps that anyone would think of. And so, as I said, innovation is something rapidly disrupting, or it is incrementally growing to make a revolution, right? So basically, the innovation will have to strike a balance in terms of your innovation that you make, and then also the investment that is going to incur to commercialize a product or services. So basically, you can bifurcate into 3. So you innovate. So basically, it starts with idea and concept, and then you can match the invention with the problem, people problem. So any product that we develop, it has to have a purpose. And then once there is a purpose, then obviously it makes sense for someone to invest to commercialize and make it as a business. So research is the transformation of money into knowledge. On the contrary, innovation is the transformation of knowledge into money. So this is a famous quote by Dr. Jeffrey Nicholson. 3M is a multinational company, you might have known. They have wide variety of portfolio of products, starting from safety to all the way to devices. And the process of innovation basically transforms the ideas into business. And this is just to show you how this all structured. So basically, if you have to have a structured plan, and then it should be a disciplined one, like it has to be organized, and as I said, it should be purposeful and a plan and scalable. So these are the things that you see in the investment angle, and then when it comes to invention, so these are the left side that you see, that you have to have such an idea, and you should have a gut feel, and then if you have opportunity to develop, and then it serve the purpose of the individual, then that's a invention and innovation purpose, right? So the process of innovation, if you think of the innovation process, as I said, the idea and solution, and then it drives to the business proposition, then you look at the feasibility and business plan. So first of all, anything that you want to develop, if you want to develop, is it worth enough to move forward? So the first question that we said, because we have to ask ourselves whether the idea is strong enough to justify moving forward, right? Because ideas are cheap. People can have multiple ideas, but then whether you want to move ahead with that idea, very seriously, and then make a proposition, and then see the feasibility, and then you develop a plan to scale it. So any business, anything that we want to develop, so these are the sequence that it goes in. So if there is no, in the first step, if there is no strong market or strong idea, the idea is not worthwhile to pursue, then I think we should discontinue. And only if the business is feasible, then we should, we have to develop a business plan to produce and reach the market. Sometimes it fails when there is no feasibility, the product fails, or there is a hindrance to your innovation. So it is very important that you think of an idea, select an idea which has a purpose, and then also a proposition, a value, and then you have to think about the feasibility of making it as a prototype product and validate it, and then take it to the market. So if you look at the sub steps of doing all this exercise of ideas and solution, so you need to do the characteristic mapping, that is persona mapping. Then the technology, whether it fits into the need of the market. And then we have to ask the question, whether is it going to be a product or service? And then who are the users? And why they will use the product? Because there may be other equivalent product which is already in the market, and why they should use the product. And if you have, a product, or if you have, whether the product will make enough money out of that product selling. So all the basic proposition that you need to see. And then the feasibility, when it comes to feasibility, you have to see the industry fit, market fit, whether the product has any competition, and then you have to look at your own team, and then the resources, basically the team, and we say it's a resources, and then how much their company is interested to invest, and whether the product has a right fit to the segment that you're going to serve, all that. Then you can so suppose not every innovator or entrepreneur might not have enough money to do something, so they need to do an investor pitch. They need to prepare a pitch deck and then propose to the investor, and then apprise them about the product market, and then the commercialization potential. And then if they get money, then they can plan to do a mass scale production. And so just looking at I'm just breaking down into all the 5 steps of process innovation. So to start with the ideas and solution. So whatever the idea that comes, there may be, as I said, the ideas are cheap. You may keep thinking about several services model or the business product model. But then these are the key things that you have to see, because the first idea may be the worst idea, but it has to refine. You have to do a lot of bootstrapping to come to a right product. So the first solution is rarely the best solution. So it means you need to think about multiple things. Like you need to see about the persona, like I say, characteristics, and then the perception and valuation. So, and their community. These are the 3 buckets in the perception and valuation. And when it comes to the effects, like you need to see the technology and the conceptualization and all that. And then it results into a potential solution, which is nothing but your results. So it's a iterative process. One has to keep thinking and asking question to themselves. And then you have to deconstruct an idea to discover effects and effects. So when I said what it means, what does it do? If it is a product, what is the intended use? And what is special about it? What is unique selling proposition about the product that you want to develop? And then how does it compare with other products which are already in the market? And what is the effect? And how does what is essential for it to make it something stand out in the crowd different? And then what are the limits? So if you ask all these questions, and then you get an answer on this around this the ideas, and then you definitely you need to see the community. Basically, you have to see who is going to use your product, and who are going to be influencer, and what are their needs. So if you develop, for example, if you say, I want to manufacture a product, let's say a simple example of a cosmetic item, whether that is going to fit into the market that I'm going to sell. Maybe the people are with a dark complexion, they might need a light color. The people who are with the majority of light in color, like the skin color, they need a dark combination. So you need to see what is going to be the outcome. What are the people desire? Like whether you can make some, you can make a survey, and then you can ask about, you can take their experiences, and then you can ask whether this product is going to. You can do any product that you want to develop. So basically, these days people do market intelligence and analysis before they launch. Before even they do sometime, first they do the survey, and then only they think about the need of the market. So it can be a reverse also sometimes. So you need to link the technology and community to uncover novel solution to the people's problem. Right? So it's not that sometimes, as I said, you need to see where is the demand and what is the need, what is the market need, and it is perfectly fine if you have to think something reverse. And because the product that we manufacture or develop, if it is failing for some reason, for example, it may be a pricing strategy, maybe not mapped correctly, or the launch of the product may not be in the right population that we launch. And so there will be several reasons why the product has to fail. So basically, any one step that may cause a drastic failure, and that is why it's very important that you have to link everything. You have to link the technology and the community that you are going to launch, and what majorly it is going to solve. Any product that we develop, so there should be a purpose, as I said in the beginning, whether it is solving the problem. And if you are going to develop a product which is already in market, if you're not having any value add in terms of pricing, technology, then eventually it will fail. So you need to see that effects of technology, like people always say that push and pull. So basically, you have to see a market pull, and then is there a demand or need, and then only the product will emerge, and then it will prosper. Otherwise, if there is a constraint, and it will not even take off. And so you have to always think about the combination of technologies and markets. It's not that we develop a product only for India and then you need to sell it in India, unless until if it is a need. For example, if you develop a silk sari, the most of the buyers are in India, and then you may sell it in SAARC countries or neighboring countries, but you may not be able to sell in a high number in European Union or United States, because that is not their daily cloth. So you have to see whether there is a combination market, or the technology can be combined with something. That is also something very important, because sometimes the product that we develop, it may not be sold alone, but if you sell it with something else, if you bundle it, then it may have value. So the one thing that what all we need to do while we are thinking about the process innovation, that you need to keep thinking about to refine the idea that you have selected until there is a strong enough merit deeper investigation. So you need to keep asking questions. Why? Because all innovations begin as inventions, but not inventions are innovation. So similarly, commercialization starts with innovation, but not all innovation can be commercialized. So this is why it is very important that you have to keep thinking until you refine the idea for a better. And when it comes to the business proposition, so as I said, crafting business proposition is going to eventually lead to the commercialization. So the path has to be very clear. What is my product? Who I'm going to sell? Who is the customer? And why do they have to buy? And how do I make money? So these are the crafting question that we have to ask, and then this will obviously go into as I said, the iterative thinking process. So you have to keep thinking about the offering, proposition, and the influences that eventually will lead into the solution. So and to formulate initial business proposition, we need to have this basic question sorted. So what is your product or service, and what does your business do? So what is the purpose of the business, and who are all my target customers, and are their need compelling enough to justify buying the product concept? And because you develop a product doesn't mean that somebody has to buy it and value it. And why will our target customer use our product? So what is the value proposition that you are going to bring to the table? And how does the company make money? So it could be through a company's value capture mechanism, or the product, the product pricing consistent with the value created for the user. So what is that value that is going to make money for the company? That's a key. And so when we think about the process innovation, product launch, all that, it's you have to always think about the 3-4 buckets, like the feature of the product, and what is the type of thing, like whether it's going to be a niche area or it's going to be something already in the market, or is there any potential for me to go for IPO or acquisition? And what is going to be the a big change, or will I be able to change, bundle it with something else? So you have to see all the questions, because the product development may look very technical oriented or technology oriented stuff, but then you need to think about multiple things like ancillary, your IP, and you have to think about the market channel. You have to think about the product line extension, and you may have to do the cross border market, like you have to go beyond your continent and then sell. And sometimes you have to think about the viable supply chain, and growing in secondary market, and how to control the assets. There are so many things that we need to think, and these are the three things, like feature, product, and business. This you have to keep refining, and then find the answer. And when we talk about this business promotion, causes and effect, and perception valuation, so there could be overlap also. So because overlapping the technology, community, and influence map provide a clear picture idea. So in order to get a clarity on what are we going to do, so these are the three things that we have to merge and then see. And if you refine this potential solution at business profession by iterating, as I said, you have to go through the multiple iteration process, and knowing that you may have to revisit the technology and community map to begin. So if you ask me, there are two levels of looking into the industry product perspective or the market. So you need to keep one as a micro level and macro level. So if you see the market domain and the industry domain, these are the segments that we need to think of. And if it is a micro, for example, what is the target segment, benefits and attractives, and characteristics and needs and wants, and the sustainable advantage for that kind of product differentiation may be limited, and the intellectual assets may be limited. In a macro level, you have a bigger industry attractiveness, and the Porter 5-4 kind of concept may be applicable. And if you look at the market attractors on the market domain, the potential expansion or new segment, these are the things that we need to think of. So anything that we overlap, finally, that your team has to have that the team expertise, and the aspiration and mission should align, and ability to execute by your team, and also the value chain. These are the things that has to align from business feasibility to a team perspective. And coming to the business planning, so any business plan that you need to first create a deck, you have to convince your management, the investor. So any time that you want to prepare a business plan, and you need to be very careful with your presentation and attributes. So use a generic text, not a very stylish, and then the heading should be very clear. The bullet points, table, graph, whatever the pictorial thing that we can use, people may get bored of the numericals and then the data that we put in. So it should be basically easily explainable to people, and then it should be able to, people should be able to understand without going through the nitty-gritties of the data. So anything that you start with the investor presentation, use the graphics and exhibit in the plan. That's much more simple. So you can, these days people use dashboards, analytic thing, and that is much more easier for people to comprehend instead of looking at the numerical metrics. And when we develop a pitch deck, so these are the things that I would suggest. So basically, you should talk about the problem statement, and then the solution or the value proposition, that advantages that you are going to, how to solve the problem, and how you will be solving the problem, and then what are the advantages. And then you need to have a business model clearly stated. How are we going to source the money? Through grant or through venture capital money, or going to put your own friends and family money, and that market in industry. So how big is your market, like the segment of business, that the product that you are going to launch or develop, and what is the size of the users and growth rate, and maybe you can give the statistical data in all other geographies and stages of development. How long it takes, the gestation time for from R&D or ideation to all the way to market commercialization. And then the competition. So if there is a competition, as I said, if there are already a competing product in the market, how are you going to relate the relative comparison and the competitive positioning? How are you going to position your product? What is the unique selling proposition, and then what is the unique about your product? That we have to clearly state. And then marketing and sales strategy, go-to-market strategy, and operations. Whether and how are we going to take care of building the company and then building the milestone, all that. And then finance. Obviously, you have to look at the historical results of your startup, or the projection for next 5 years, or key milestone that we would achieve, and then capital requirement. So all that. And then management. Obviously, the top management of biodata, their key personnel, organization chart. These are important. So I think many of us might have heard about elevator pitch. So it's a time that's all the time they give, maximum 10 minutes. So within 10 minutes, you need to cover everything. So you have to be very crisp in the slide, and wherever there is a need for you to use the typical graphical representation, you have to use. And it is very important that your problem, the problem that you want to address, and then the solution that you are bringing to the table should be very clear. And then of course there should be a commercial angle, and the topic that we have discussed should be very crisp. And if you break down all the pitch deck into 3, so I would say you can just solution and business model, and market and industry competition, and the other things will come in the third bucket. So this is how we have to break down into the pitch deck into the parts. And so business plan, once prepared, it's again a living document. It may undergo multiple iteration or changes. So it's an ongoing activity. It's not that one, set in stone once and then you will just go with it. So it should be very live plan, and it should be reviewed regularly, because the financial situation, may warrant you to relook at it, or even the inflation of the country, or a particular continent, or now I think you might know that a lot of investors are very serious, very careful in investing in startup, because of the current the ongoing the inflation and the other issues in each country after the post pandemic. So now the key thing for every the business innovation, you have to achieve a goal, and then you have to move forward. But then it's very important to have a very good business plan that will tell your investor, through the pitch deck, how good it is. So the important thing is, it's to create a very good investor pitch and a business plan. And the second topic that I would like to cover today, the technology readiness level. So we have been talking about the innovation in the last 15-20 minutes. And if you have to, talk about once you develop the product, or if somebody has to evaluate you to fund you. So there should be a metric for them to estimate, right? So if you develop a technology, and how a venture capitalist, or a angel investor, or a granting company, any government agencies, how are they going to evaluate? So that's how the technology readiness level has been created. So originally it was created by NASA those days, and European Union also, they have their own technology readiness level, measuring metrics. So basically, the technology readiness level is a measure of estimating the technology maturity of core technologies in your program during the selection process and in subsequent monitoring and evaluation phases, until these technologies or products, utilizing them, attain a market readiness. So, as I said, it's originally developed by NASA. The TRL scale is a metric with 9 technology readiness level for describing the maturity of a technology from an ideation stage, that is TRL 1, and all the way to the commercial readiness, that is TRL 9. So the least being TRL 1, and then the highest is TRL 9, is a commercial readiness. So the levels in between, if you look at the technology readiness, this is a typical technology readiness level that was developed in NASA. If you look at some time, there are some levels in between. It covers the establishment of proof of concept, POC, or prototype, and functional validation from models to real operations environment, and clearances of mandatory regulatory barriers between levels towards market introduction of this technology. So it may not look very obvious here that where the regulatory thing comes in, but then it all well thought of in the when you develop your product, the TRL level 1 to 9, it includes all the other things also, like a regulatory, and then your validation, clinical validation. If you have to do a validation of the on the product, it could be a device, it could be a diagnostic, it could be a drug. So it has to be thoroughly validated before it reaches the market. So these are all parts and parcel of your TRL levels. So as I said, the basic technology research. So people, this is I have taken from the BIRAC website of DBT. So this is what we follow, meaning we follow the NASA model. And if you look at the TRL 1 to TRL 2, so this is basically a basic research. That's where people, the academic institute, come into picture to conduct a research activity. And once you see the proof of concept, or you prove that there is a feasibility, then it goes to it takes the next step, and then it goes to the next level. And then you develop the technology. Now you need, you develop the technology, then you need to demonstrate that there is a safety and efficacy, and then there is a need for you to vet it thoroughly by conducting research. Then it goes to the next level. So these are the different level in which people look at the accomplishment or the milestone and the readiness. Accordingly, then you will be appraised. You will be given money according to the level that you are attained. So technology, if you look at the government website, the DBT website, I have taken this from. You can also go and click this link and then read. And in Government of India, in BIRAC, in Department of Biotechnology, for the TRL level has been set out for these many products like drugs, vaccine, biosimilars, regenerative medicine, medical devices, and diagnostics, and artificial intelligence. Where these days people talk about artificial intelligence, everywhere. So the big data analytics, Internet of Things, software development and bioinformatics, and there is also a TRL scale for industrial biotechnology, including the secondary agriculture, aquaculture and fisheries, and veterinary. So these are the areas or domain in which Department of Biotechnology, Government of India is investing. So in order to invest the startups or the innovators, the individual innovators, sometimes DBT gives money through the big grant to even to the individuals who has a research ideas and potential to develop a product. So it's not that only a startup company can get a BIG grant, that is biotechnology innovation grant. Even individuals sometimes they get. So these are the 10 things that the TRL has been defined in the Ministry of Science and Technology, and the DBT follows the same, BIRAC follows the same. And I just want to give 2 examples because I know, and there are a lot of students from MBA background here, but then this is just to give you an example on how we bifurcate. Like in India, the technology readiness level is, has been categorically segmented for the investment for startup. So the stage 1 is always the ideation stage. So basically, the definition is you need to identify the need, the basic principles involved. So you do a lot of literature search and see whether it can be developed. Then the proof of principle, the research ideas, once it's developed, you formulate a hypothesis, and then you develop a protocol, because you need to do a small, studies, maybe in vitro study, a biochemical study, or you may have to send some sample to get screened. So these are the TRL level. It shows that these are the technology like 2. And then the proof of concept is demonstrated. Once you develop the POC with a number of sample, like, maybe the statistically significant number of sample that you test and then get a confidence, and it become a TRL 3. And then once the molecule shows some efficacy and safety in a minimal number of animal studies. So basically, we call it the in vivo study. So you show that there are some substantial results on the efficacy and safety. Then this is the fourth level. Then you do the validation at the fifth level. So basically, you give the molecule to some companies where there is a GLP accredited labs, or so they conduct a preclinical study. So these are all mostly in vitro and in vivo. And then here you do a preclinical study again in animal. The preclinical study ends, then you have to go to the next level of phase 1, that is human trial. So in TRL 5, you do preclinical study, but then in a very structured manner. You check the toxicity, you check whether any need for taking testing license, all that. So once you take a test license, then you can go to TRL level 6, where you produce a pilot product that will go to the human trial, that is phase 1 trial. And during that time, you have to get a approval from DCGA, the Drug Control General of India. So, and then once you get a investigational new drug application reviewed by DCGA, they give approval to go to second level, that is phase 2 clinical trial. So as you all know, any drug, there are 4 levels phases, like phase 1 to phase 4. So in technology level, technology readiness level 6, you might get a approval to go to phase 2 because you have already proven the preclinical study, and then you can go to the phase 2 clinical study. So the phase 2 clinical study, so basically in phase 1, people typically test around 25 to 50 patients, and then phase 2 is about 50 to 100 patients, and phase 3 is more than 100 patients, and phase 4 is a post-market surveillance. So in the late stage validation, which is TRL 7, you might have completed your phase 2 clinical trial, and then data is reviewed by DCGA, and then they give grant approval for the phase 3. So that's the milestone based. So then you go to a pre-commercialization stage, that is TRL 8, where you do the final round of clinical trial, that is phase 3. And once you get the DCGA give you a marketing authorization, basically they give you approval, grant approval, and then you launch a product, and then you have to take a post-marketing studies and surveillance. So basically how your product, sometime what happens, the drug may pass in all 3 phases of trial, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. But then when it goes to market, it may fail, or it may be recalled by the authorities, because when you do it in 500 patients, that the effect that you would have seen might not be enough. But then when you do it in a lakhs and crores of people, then it may. For example, you might have seen the COVID vaccines, how they behave. And sometimes the Drug Control General of India, they did not approve the Covaxin in the initial studies because there were a lot of discrepancies over the data presented. And finally, they got approval. Once everybody got, and then everybody sold and then made money, then they came as a last player to the market. So there are chances that the adverse event of the drug will show up only, it will be amplified to the whole world only when it is sold in millions. So sometimes that's the scenario. That is why it's very important that you iron out everything in the preclinical study before you move into phase 1. This is about the drug, and then what I'm going to tell you now is something about medical devices or in vitro diagnostic kit that you can take it as an example. Again, ideation stage, you do the same literature search, and then in the proof of principle, you formulate a hypothesis, develop a protocol, and you can buy the reagents and then start doing all the permutation exercise, and then you go to the third level, where you demonstrate the if it is a kit, if it is an in vitro diagnostic kit, any diagnostic kit, you have to prove sensitivity, specificity, because that's the key for any diagnostic. Even if whether it is a COVID, or it is a HIV test, or it is a malaria, dengue test, you need to prove that sensitivity, specificity as a key criteria. And then you need to look at the standard that in the international standard that are needed for various things. It could be for a strength, leachability of the packing material, for the usability of device that the physician will use on patient. It could be a simple shelf life. If it is a protein drug, you will be studying more about the shelf life. So all that has to be taken into consideration, and all that has to be vetted through a series of assays, like the safety and efficacy has to be proven through thorough assays. And then once the functional prototype is developed, then you have to get a approval to use it on animals. So that's where you get a approval from the animal ethics committee, and then you do a small study in vivo study and on the prototype, and then you do all other studies in parallel. For example, if you have to pack the device, you need to do the packaging study. If the device is sterile device, then you need to do the sterilization study. So all that will go in parallel. So you will be talking about the packaging material integrity, stability study. You will be looking at the sterile packaging, and you will see the animal type toxicity, mutagenicity, genotoxicity. All the study will be completed during the TRL level 4. And in the TRL level 5, where there is a early stage validation, as I said, you will do a preclinical, then you go to phase 1. So when you do preclinical, you do it in a GLP accurate laboratory, where the reports will come from the third party. So you may use human samples to do some in vitro, and use animals. Then you present the data to the CDCSO, the DCGA, and then they give you the permission. And with that, you can go to the next level, that is TRL level 6, where you will do a pilot clinical trial, where you will involve some patients. So you will, as I said, you will involve the minimum number of patients for any medical device clinical trial accepted is like 10 number of patients, 10 subjects. But most of the time it may not be statistically significant. So the minimum number of patients that you would need in order to validate a device, in the phase 1 is minimum 25 patients. It's just a rough number, but then it may vary from from device to device, depending on the nature of the seriousness of the device. So basically, when it comes to drug, I explained to you about phase 1 to phase 4. And when it comes to the device, there are only 2 type of study. One is pivotal study. Second one is a pilot study. So pilot study is the initial study where you do a small number of clinical trials using the device in order to understand the safety. And when it is a pivotal study, you will see the equivalency or the effectiveness of the study. So basically, for drugs, people talk about safety and efficacy because it has to be in the blood, metabolize, excrete. So you will talk about, for drugs, you will always talk about safety and efficacy. For devices, you will always talk about the safety and your performance. How well the intended use has been achieved on the device is the key. So for the drug, it is slightly different. For the device, it is different. And once you achieve that, the phase 1, then you may be asked to do a multicentric trial, because lot of time, the clinical trial for drug, it is randomized multicentric trial. But not necessarily that it has to be applicable for devices, but then if the device has a different intended, the same intended use, but then if it is going to be sold in different market, and you have to consider a multicentric trial. For example, when we think about a breast implant, the females who are in India or in the Western or Caucasian population, the organ size may be different. So when you implant, there may be some concern over the sizes. So a breast implant which is manufactured for an Indian patient may not be suited for the Caucasian population, because as we know, the Western people, they are slightly obese or they are very tall, and any device, medical devices that is developed for Indian patient may not suit exactly for that Caucasian population. So it is very important that you need to conduct a multicentric trial if we have a plan to go to multiple markets. And then the important thing during this session, during the TRL level, the technology readiness level 7, they are all more document conscious, meaning how are we going to develop the product, and then you need to build a technical file. You need to have the design manufacture file, DFM file, or if it is a design history file, DHF. So all the document has to be prepared in a way according to the ISO 13485 standard, and it has to be presented to the series for manufacturing license. So once you get a manufacturing license, that's where the TRL 8 level, the pre-commercialization, meaning you manufacture, stock it, but then you cannot sell until you get a manufacturing license. So you initiate the manufacturing license application, manufacture it, they come for inspection, and then they see, then they grant a license with which you can go. So again, the TRL level line, as I said, it's a post-commercial launch. So basically, anything that you launch in the market, you will be doing a surveillance, and then you have to put together the document and then submit to the regulatory authority to make sure that the permission granted is valid, and then there is no significant adverse event has been reported. So that's the thing. So the other two topics, I think I would need another 1 hour to talk about that, but then I will simplify it because technology transfer and commercialization itself is a vast topic. Maybe we can cover this in another session. But then, since this topic was given to me, I just wanted to touch base on the whole thing. So basically, if you look at the innovation process management to all the way to the commercialization and post-market surveillance, all. So this is how it's seriously, you can look it up. Like basically, you start with the R&D, and you have to secure the patent, and you have to review. And once the IP is, protected, then your marketing innovation, licensing invention, marketing invention, all that, and you go to the commercial stage, and then you seek for a royalty when you generate a money. So there are things that you need to do multiple things along the way. So one is you need to see IP. That is a key thing. Like if it is an innovative product, obviously intellectual property is a key thing because that's the one that gets you money when you exit the market. So anything that you think, anything that you develop which is unique, first time, and nobody has done it in anywhere in the globe, and you need to secure them. So there are a lot of IPs available, right? So basically, you can do a copyright, you can do a trademark, you can do a patent, and so there are a number of ways wherein we can secure the IP, and then once you secure the IP, develop it. And then once you map the right industry, and then you showcase it, collaborate it, and so you do better negotiation to market it, and then you think about, because as a startup, you may not hold the technology with you forever, and then you cannot penetrate the market for all the geography. So some point in time, you need to transfer the technology, you need to take the return on investment, you need to take your money back, and then you need to exit, because startup company has their own limitation, meaning they cannot, though they have developed a wonderful product, they cannot go to the global market because they have a very limited reach out. So they need to tag along with somebody who's already in the market in a bigger way. So, for example, a small, let's say take example of phone, Mi phone or something, MI phone or Oppo or any brand. So unless they can meet the market need, and then they make the price point feasible to the Indian or other market, they cannot go everywhere. They can only sell it in India or in China. So they have to break the barrier. They need to do all this, they have to factor in all this when they're developing the product, and then only they can go global. So if a small vendor develop a product in, let's say in Bangalore, and if he's a startup, and then he have to really go to Australia to sell the product, he need to find a way, to tag the product with somebody and then take it to the Australian market. It's not so easy. So how will you progress that route? So basically, we all talked about the idea, concept, technology development, and all that. But then the technology transfer and commercialization is something critical for startup. So it's called innovation change. So if you have to do the technology transfer, it's an art. So basically, you have to transfer the process, a manufacturing process, or a skill, or a knowledge, or a method of manufacturing to someone else. So basically, it's a market pull and the push model, technology push. So you need to drive, you need to basically transfer the product to a market where there is a need, and it could be an individual, it could be another government, another startup, or it could be a medium-sized company. So if you look at the stakeholder of technology commercialization who are involved, so basically technology producer, that is nothing but investors, or the universities, the research center, state laboratory or private laboratory, and technology consumer. So basically the consumer who is going to acquire the technology, it could be a government agency or a private sector, another manufacturer, or even IP broker. So they will throw some money and then take the IP and then they will sell it to somebody else in the right time. And then product producer, they are basically a manufacturer, distributor, or retailer. And product consumers, they are the end user, like people, and or it could be just a service. And a resource provider, basically in order to do the technology transfer, you need money. You need to either depend on government fund, or you have to take some VC support, or you need to take some government institution, I need to look for a bank loan. So the technology can be transferred for a viable commercial purpose, but then there are many ways. You can do the licensing, or you can only seek royalty, or you can merge with some companies. And so any research to commercial stage, to go from research to all the way to commercial. If you look at the stages, the technology readiness level, from going from academic research, R&D, to the private sector, the commercial market, if you look at that, there is a valley of death there where a lot of collaboration is needed by the public and private entities. And that's where the death happens. So a lot of time people identify something in the R&D, but then they are unable to take it to the market because they are not putting enough effort, or they are not getting an opportunity, or they do not even know the strategy, how to take them, how to nurture them to the next level. So a lot of time the basic research remains in publications, and applied research, maybe they just secure the patent or something, but then they are not able to scale it up. They are not able to develop a prototype, or they are not able to fetch a grant or investor money. So that's where the value of death, that's what it's shown here. So in this valley of death, basically during the time of your applied research to all the way to commercialization, the income and expenditure curve is not positive because you keep spending. On the other hand, the progress and learning curve is increasing, because the more you spend on the product development, and you have more viability to take the product quickly to the market, because there is more, obviously there will be more spending on the research side, but then you are growing towards the commercialization. And it is shown in the same thing. It's shown here. If you have a technology capability, basically you need to add features. You have one product, think of multiple features to that product, and then there will be a multiple demand. For example, you just sell only mobile, people don't buy. But then when you sell mobile with cameras, when you sell mobile with a recording, voice recorder, when you sell mobile with health sensors to monitor routine health, then there are a lot of buyers. So you have to keep adding the feature. You need to keep innovating, and then to make the product valuable, so that there are a lot of market demands and then buyers. So otherwise, it will be a remote thing. For example, some company they fail even after reaching certain threshold. The BlackBerry is the good example. While iPhone is growing, Samsung is growing, but BlackBerry was not able to withstand in the market because they were not contemporary. So they failed at some time because they couldn't match the speed of the market innovation, and they couldn't withstand. So you should not, the product commercialization, it's not just a one-time selling. It's a iterative process, meaning you have to keep manufacturing and selling. So, and while doing it, you have to also see the market, what it needs, and then act accordingly. So this is again a typical thing. Like you can see 9 steps here, but if you look at only the 4 orange boxes, Those are the minor steps, but then the technology commercialization process has 9 different steps, from all the way from imagining your idea all the way to sustaining commercialization. And these are the opportunities. One, if they talk about a technology commercialization strategy, as I said, you can go licensing, and then you can do strategic alliances. So people, companies, they do the joint venture with somebody, or they tag along with somebody as a co-branding, they do. And the licensing is the simplest form. And second is strategic alliance, then equity investment. Like you look for, equity fund from your parent-owned company. For example, if a startup was spinned off by somebody, and then they can keep funding the company till the product mature, and then they take a big share, and then they can take the technology out to the market. So basically, the parent company act as an investor company, or equity investment, a spin-off. So where people take a majority hold, but then you can, if the company has a lot of product portfolio, and then you want to spin off a company only for your own product, which has a niche market, then you can do that. Or you can go IPO. That's a big thing, but then you need to gain, you need to be in the market, you need to have a good sales record, you need to have a good customer base who believe in your product, then only this is possible. So these are the ways, strategy ways in which, the conversation happens. And I would like to end it here, and then keep the floor for, question and answer. I would like to open the floor for question and answer. Please feel free to ask any question, even it could be a minor question or it could be a very trivial. So please feel free to ask me anything. Over to you guys. Thank you. Can you talk close to the mic, because I couldn't hear your voice clearly. Maybe someone can help him with the mic, and so that he can be a little louder. Any questions from startup side? Any incubator, startup incubator?
Muthu, can I ask one question?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, say, what about the market readiness level?
Sorry, market readiness.
Market readiness level.
Yeah.
You have explained several things about the technology readiness level. So will you talk few things about this market readiness level?
Yeah. So see, market readiness level is when the product, we were talking about the technology readiness level to get funding, and then to nurture the product, to mature the product. But then if you have to go to market, for example, now you developed a product which you launched in India, and which is picking up slowly, but then you also see a potential in launching it in Europe or US. There could be a few barriers. One is the entry barrier, meaning a regulatory barrier. In order, if it is a device or drug, then it has to have a FDA approval to sell it in USA. Similarly, to sell it in European Union, you will have a EMA approval, that is European Medicine Agency approval. So if you think of a barrier, if there is no barrier, only if it is a medical device or diagnostic or biologics, then you will have a barrier for the commercialization. And if there is nothing of that sort, then you can go to the market by simply having your company registered, and then have a IEC code, import export code, you can go. So market readiness level is like once you have a product that is sellable, and then which has a demand in the market, and the barrier that you need to think about for other geography is this. Otherwise, the product is ready for any market. develop. Only if it is a specialized product like drugs and devices, then you need to take a step back and think about that particular market need. Otherwise, the product that you have developed, which is very naive, which is very generic in nature. Let's say you developed a torchlight with which can